Let's take a look at the basics of graphing a piecewise defined function. So let's do a graph of f of x equals, and then you put a brace, and then you write, for example, the following, 1. And now we will use the function value 1 when, for example, x is greater than, for example, 2. That's just a possibility. And I'll put here, for example, negative 2 when x is less than or equal to 2. So let's take a look. I'm going to do a small grid on the side here. And let's graph this. So this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. This is a piecewise defined function. X greater than 2 is used, for example, if x that goes in is like 5 or 10 or 15, because this inequality has to be true. X less than or equal to 2 is used, for example, when x is like 0 or negative 1 or negative 2. Let's take a look at what I mean. I want to graph this with some basic points at first, okay? So for example, I'm going to find f of 0. Well, I'm going to plug that into my function. So I'm going to replace x with 0 to be very clear. When I do that, I'm going to have this output, negative 2. And I know that because 0 is less than or equal to 2. That's the part of the inequality that's satisfied, the bottom portion. See that? That's going to give me a point. This is x and this is y. So I have the following. I come to my graph and I mark x is 0, y is negative 2. So that's right here. Let's do one more of these. Now I'm going to, for example, find this one. I'm going to say f of 1, and again, take a look, I'm going to do the following. That's going to give me negative 2, and I know that because 1 is less than or equal to 2. In other words, it's the bottom portion right here, okay, that I'm using, because 1 is less than or equal to 2 is made true. So when x equals 1 goes in, the bottom portion of the function is used, and you get a value of negative 2. That gives us a point. This is another x, this is another y, so it's this point, 1 comma negative 2. What about a 2 itself? Well, let's evaluate that one. F of 2. That's going to give you negative 2 still. And I know that because 2 is less than or equal to 2. I'm still using the bottom portion. You see that? I'm plugging, wherever I see x, I plug in the 2. That's it. So this inequality, 2 is less than or equal to 2, is true. So this is my x and this is my y. So I'm going to mark that over here. For example, when 2 goes in, then negative 2 comes out. And then I basically connect it this way. And I know that I should point to the left because I chose values like these, right? I had, for example, x equals 0, I had x equals 1, x equals 2, and so on. And I could choose, like, for example, negative 1, I could choose negative 2. See how they're going to the left? That's how I know. Now let's do the second portion of it. So for the second portion, I'm going to do, for example, f of, say, 2.1. Well, that's going to give me an output of 1. And I know that because 2.1 is greater than 2. Notice that I'm using the upper portion of the function because the 2.1 is greater than 2. That gives me a point. For example, 2.1, and this is the y coordinate right there. So over here I mark. I go over to 2.1 roughly, and I mark. Okay? I repeat this then. For example, f of 3, that's going to give me 1. And I know that because 3 is greater than 2. In other words, you see how I'm using the upper portion of the function. So for example, when this is 3, I put a point, and then I can continue in that fashion, going, say, all the way to the right, like that. Okay, I'm assuming that I can just continue that way, so I just draw an arrow to suggest it, and that's it. What is perhaps the trickiest is what happens at the 2 itself. Now take a look. Look back at your function. You see, for example, that according to the definition of the function, right here, when 2 goes in, negative 2 comes out, right? This portion is used right here, okay? Which means that, for example, when you do the second piece of it, above it, you got to put a hole like that. There's a hole in that position. You have values to the right of it, but at 2, the blue curve gets a hole. And that is so exactly because the 2, as we have it here, goes into the negative 2 portion, the bottom portion, not into the upper portion. So that's why it looks like that. Remember, I'm showing you just a way of doing it, not that way. Of course, there are other ways of doing it. Some people don't need all of these steps, and that's fine, right? If you can do the mental math of plugging a value of x in, and then seeing which inequality is true, and then getting the corresponding value of y out, you can. So in this context, remember that these values right here, the 1 and the negative 2, those are your y's. And you're outputting those values. Those are your y coordinates. Value of x that you plug in. Thanks so much for watching. Please leave a like, and I'll check you out in another video.